Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the August 1, 2024 meeting of the Little Falls Planning Board. Just a couple of announcements. Our chairman, Walt Kilpatrick, was unable to be here tonight, so I will chair. We have an application that is a request for an extension for 3038. Very good. Valerie, shall we do the flag salute? Thank you. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Valerie, would you read this statement of public notice?
Township Planning Board meeting of Thursday, August 1st, 2024 is in order. Please take notice that adequate notice of this meeting is provided in accordance with NJSA 10:4-8 and NJSA 10:4-2 as follows. The notice of the meeting was promptly posted on the bulletin board at the municipal building located at 225 8th Street, Little Falls, New Jersey, on January 1, 2024. A copy of the notice was also sent via email to the North Jersey Herald News, and additionally, a copy of the notice was filed in the Township clerk. Please note that this meeting is being taped, therefore we ask that you speak loud and clear into the microphone.
Thank you. May we have the roll call?
Mr. Clerk,
Here.
Lulu Damiano,
Here.
Pataldo,
Here.
Mr. Seeger,
Here.
Koshin, Mayor Damiano, Councilman Stoller, Sarfati, Mr. Wade, Mr. Dolan,
Here.
Mr. Rima,
Here.
Mr. Brigadura,
Here.
Mr. Kovars,
Here.
Mr. Vaughn, here, Mr. Barry.
Here. Thank you. I was about to mention that we're going to be carrying over the application for 3038 Newark Pompton Turnpike. It's a request for an extension. No further notice is required. And also, we're going to be carrying over to the next meeting, the application for JSL Properties LLC at 117 Main Street.
JSL, there'll be no further notice.
And no further notice is required for that. It'll be carried right over. Thank you. We don't have a member of the council here, so we will not take any comments. May I have a motion for approval of minutes for the last meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And a roll call?
Raj,
Yes.
Mr. Luke Damiano,
Yes.
Taldo,
Yes.
Seaver,
Yes.
Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Barry.
Yes. Thank you. And under memorializing resolutions, we have the application for 34 Veranda Avenue. May I have a motion to accept?
To memorialize.
Second.
Thank you. And a roll call, Val?
Raj,
Yes.
Luke Damiano,
Yes.
Taldo,
Yes.
Seaver,
Yes.
Mr. Barry.
Yes. Thank you. All right, under applications, we have an application for DL Development LLC, 8284 Newark Pompton Turnpike. Mr. Vettery,
Good evening,
Floor is
Mr.
yours.
Vice Chairman, pleasure, members of the board. John Vettery entering my appearance on behalf of DL Development. Just to get some housekeeping out of the way, this applicant has jurisdiction to be heard tonight as notice has been properly served.
Correct, members of the board, I had an opportunity to review the notice provided to me from Mr. Vettery and it complies with all requirements of the municipal limits law such that the board does have jurisdiction to pursue the application.
Terrific, thank you. So just going to give a bit of an overview. We probably all watched this building deteriorate over the last 15 or 20 years. You know, I always like to give a little bit of history, but cognizant of the time. So according to the tax records, I actually think it's older. The building was built in 1920. It was in the hands of the Walker family forever. They operated a market there. And interestingly, I didn't know Farnese Bakery that was their very first location before they built the building across the street.
Hmm.
And Gene List had his very first law office in that building. So the office, the building has a little bit of history to it. It's a mixed use building. The Walkers had a home there. It was used, I believe, as a multifamily home, maybe a 2-unit home. It was built as a single family home. And in the front, they built out a store, which was very popular up and down Main Street, up and down 23. We see it in other towns. They needed a store. They were in the business. They said, we'll use our home. And there actually is an encroachment of that store right in the right of way of Route 23. It's one of the benefits of this application that we'll be talking about this evening. So, the overview of this site, it has some strange elements to it in that it's a split zone. So the back of the site is in the R1B zone and the front of the site is in the B1 zone. Typically, we're dealing with one zone. The only thing that's proposed in the back in the quote R1B zone is where the parking is. So I think we've largely treated it as this being in a B1 zone. It reads as a B1 zone. All the other neighbors are in the B1 zone. However, when we did the plan for this, we did respect the fact the back is in an R1B zone, and it may be something that as the township looks at the master plan, they want to take a look at just putting all of it in the B1 zone. So the B1 zone, while it does have lots of retail and residential uses, mixed use is encouraged in the master plan, but in the B1 zone, residential is still not permitted on the upper floors. So B1 zone, retail, office on the ground floor, and it only permits office on the upper floors. Even though this site had a residential use on the second floor, we're creating a new building here that we're very excited to show you. I think you've seen them on the plans. And we're keeping 2 residential units, and then the front will be a retail store of approximately 1,800 square feet. Further compounding some of the complications on this site is the governor signed a new order about building in flood zones. And this board has seen this with the Martorana application, and that was done before this became a new executive order, new law, in that the DEP is no longer allowing any multifamily in a flood zone. If you don't have what they call dry access to gain access to your site, whether it's the front or the back, they will not permit multifamily. They define multifamily as anything 3 or more. But when this project was initially conceived, there were more residential units to it, and the retail was slightly less. However, the DEP had other thoughts about that. So that is what gave rise to saying, let's take a look at this. And rather than have, say, 4 one-bedroom units, have 2 very luxurious style, townhouse style apartments or townhouses, as that may be. And we have the architect that's going to testify tonight and speak about, how he conceptualized the building by kind of echoing off of the design of the church with that modern look, but looking at some of, I always consider Little Falls a brick town, and looking at the architecture of just across the street here at the mill. So if you look at the windows there, the bend in the windows, very similar to the mill, and he'll be able to speak about that better than I can. So in addition to the use variance for the residential on the upper floors, we have C variances. Many of it is because we're constricted by this site. Narrow site, very long, 2 zones, and but we are curing some issues. We're curing an encroachment. We're fixing an access point to get into the site, and we're going to be raising the building, but it's done in a very elegant way. There'll be no basement, and it doesn't look like a raised building, but there are in fact flood vents there in the building, and the engineer can speak to that as well. So our lineup tonight, and I think I'm going to mix it up a little bit, is Jeff Agarian, who's going to testify in the area of engineering, Adam Lasota, who is the architect that designed the building, and then finally will be our professional planner from John McDonough's office, John Taquin. So with that said, I'd like to introduce our first witness to testify in the area of engineering, Jeff Agarian. Over there, spot there.
It's better.
We do have laptops here, but without James here, I don't know if we're going to be able to project them on the screen. name it.
I think
But I think you swear from the testimony that you got for the sports. You can keep the whole thing.
I do.
Please tell us your name, so you have to do that.
Jeff Egarian, Egarian. My business address is 271 from 46 Fairfield, New Jersey. And I am a licensed professional engineer, and I have testified before this board recently, just a few months ago.
License in good standing?
It is.
Very good. I offer him as an expert in the area of engineering.
Accepted.
Thank
Mhm.
you. Okay, Jeff, why don't we go over let's start with the site plan, and then we had an opportunity to have a call with the board professionals as well to try to make this a more efficient meeting and to vet out some of the questions that came up both by the engineer and the board planner.
Okay, so I'll just quickly run through the existing conditions of the property and then touch on the proposed improvements that we will be doing with this project. So the property known as Block 56, Lot 4, the lot area is 10,883 square feet. The lot is approximately 45 feet wide by 230 feet deep. Like we mentioned, it is split zone with the front half being in a B1 zone and the rear in R1B. The existing structures on the property, they're in poor condition and obviously they're in need of removal. The 1.5-story brick structure doesn't close into the right of way by just shy of 2 feet and is also non-conforming in several other areas with respect to the bulk standards. The rear of the property is unimproved. It's overgrown and not maintained. The topography of the lot slopes away from Newark Pompton with an approximate change in elevation of 2 feet from it's west to east. Access to the property is provided through a shared driveway with the adjacent apartment building, and the property is served by public utilities, water, sewer, gas, and electric. What we're proposing to do on the site is to remove the existing buildings to construct a new mixed-use building, approximately 2,600 square feet. The proposed front yard setbacks will be 11 feet in the front, the side yards 4.01 feet and 8.66, both requiring variances. The rear yard setback will be 143.9 feet, which does conform to the requirements of the zone. Parking will be provided in the rear of the building. 9 spaces are required according to the calculations, and we will be providing 13 spaces with a van accessible handicap space. The trash, refuse, and recycling will be located in the rear of the building on a 12x6 pad inside of a fenced enclosure. We're going to be proposing a 6-foot vinyl privacy fence on the north side of the property to screen the new development from the view of the church and along the rear property line. Further, we're going to be proposing arborvitaes to supplement additional screening to the rear. The parking lot will require a small retaining wall, approximately 2.1 feet maximum height, so very small. Correct, on the side by the church, and it will return along the rear property line. Stormwater for the project is going to be routed through to an underground detention system via roof leaders, roof drains, and several catch basins. This is designed to include 29 Toltec chambers. And lastly, the site will be proposing new lighting via 2 pole mounted lights in the rear of the parking lot and 3 building mounted lights, one on the front rear and on the southerly building line side. And I'll just quickly touch on the flood hazard area that we are working with an environmental consultant in conjunction with the DEP, and we're in the process of following our plans application for flood hazard area verification and individual permit. So I will take any questions.
But just a couple of points, you hit most of them. So just go back to the front yard, because that was, right now, we're almost 2 feet in the negative on the front.
Correct, 1.89 feet.
So the proposal here is to try to match it up. There's a 10-unit brick apartment building to the south of this building, and we tried to match it up in line with that building, that bell tower, on the other side, the north side. So the front yard setback is going from -2 to
11.
Because the benefit with respect to that.
With respect, I don't think we need to go through unless the board would like to see all of the overlords in his comments, because we're in agreement with making, all of his recommendations. Just pointing out one thing, and that was the discussion that we had with respect to the loading. Because this is not a strip mall, not a shopping center, while the applicant could take one space away, they don't put a parking variance and make it a dedicated loading zone. We think that it would largely go unused. I'd like to get the board's opinion on that by just letting anyone who's coming for deliveries, most of the businesses that would be here in this one store most likely be service businesses that are not serviced by large trucks. At max, it's probably van, maybe 24-foot trucks that can be able to navigate that parking lot. So we'd like to ask the board if you feel not have a dedicated loading zone on the space and just let you come in, especially not we're not seeking a parking variance, and we think that we're over parking. There's a benefit that we'll speak about a little later of having the two residential units, so we meet the RSIS standard of having a two full parking spaces residential unit. When a lot of those times there may be a benefit during the morning time when they leave, and there's extra spots in addition to the spots that we need for retail stores. Additionally, we propose the code in Little Falls call for 10 by 20 spaces. We typically see that in shopping center, large shopping centers and malls. Routinely, sports granted 9 by 18. For some reason, this was shown as 9 by 20. I think it may have just been a mistake. So while we're asking for a variance this evening for a deficient parking space size of 9 by 20, we'd actually like that request to be 9 by 18. It will give us more room to back up. It is a tight spot, and 9 by 18. Whatever you want to comment, and the vote, and we will override that, or we will go through the permitting process with the and we don't know if it'll be an applicability determination. I think we'll just be submitting permits.
Correct, yeah, just the individual permit and what has the area verification.
Question. I'm looking at page 2 and 3. There's it looks like a dotted slash line. It says zone R1B and then zone R1B. Which side is the R1B zone? Which side is the B1 zone?
B1 fronts on Newark Pompton,
Okay.
which is a typo on this plan, and the R1B is obviously towards the rear property line.
Okay. So this isn't correct then.
Yes, yes, the
Okay.
front one should be revised to B1.
Okay, and we'll be going to work with Mr. Bogarts regarding the permeability test with respect to whatever we do for the proposed driving system.
Yes,
And we've seen that before. The permeability, Route 23 is not good. We've seen it up and down on Route 23, and I don't expect that this will be much different, but we'll do our best based on the constraints. I don't have any further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Engineer? Mike, do you have any questions?
Well, as far as the stormwater control for the site, I think that based on the soil condition, general soil conditions in the area, I expect a significant ability to permeate the runoff from the soil. I think the system is going to require a dedicated or a positive pipe discharge from the system into the I think the closest system is probably that existing storm sewer in Route 23.
Mhm.
That would be a state owned system, so they would need to get state approval to connect this.
If the board were to approve this application, would we put a condition that it would be subject to approval by the state or connection to the sewer system?
It's in the review letter. We read the comments in the review letter. We've seen this with other applications. I think 178 North Compton has similar situation. It's not far from here, and maybe 3038 North Compton.
Do we know if there's street parking already currently in front of this building?
No.
I think there was.
There was, but I think
I think that was taken away.
It's a turn lane.
Okay, so there's no design to put anything in front of the building, because this is a very heavily trafficked area.
Correct.
So
Nothing.
nothing's gonna- okay.
Yeah, I think further south, there is.
So the trucks aren't gonna stop in front of the place, trying to unload there when it's a no park, right?
Yeah, we expect delivery to be done. They would park in one of the spaces.
I have no objection to the elimination of the loading zone. I think it'd be more beneficial to have a usable parking spot. And any deliveries, I would expect to be short in duration, so they could use an open space or the access aisle to do their delivery and hop back in the truck and leave the site in a timely manner.
Are there any proposed tenants in place for the retail space, just depending on the vehicles that are gonna be delivering? I'm just thinking like vans versus
Right.
huge trucks.
Yeah, it would be a permitted.
Mhm.
Are the spots gonna be dedicated like for the tenants, or is it gonna say, this route or this tenant, they're gonna have spots in case there's,
We find it that at least I have, I don't think four, I think maybe two. Like, I think they have four dedicated spots where people that are coming to the store can't use it, but I think it would be helpful to have two, because two dedicated spots. But if the board likes it the other way, then you can agree that four dedicated spots.
I was just thinking
There's
from-
the spot would not.
yeah, I was just thinking for tenant wise, that for them moving in, if you'd have a dedicated spot, but I mean, it's, I guess, up to you guys what you wanna do.
So one of my biggest concern is coming out of this driveway, 23 again is very backed up there. Trying to take a left, so you have to cross one lane, two lanes, and then try to get in that left lane. It screams an accident waiting to happen. Is there anything we can do to, like, no left turns for the residents or something like that? Because I can't imagine that's gonna be a easy left turn.
Running back to the other applications we've done in that ordinance that have had more refund, I don't think we put that restriction on the site. So this is, this site has had a shared right of way for 100 years. So you have, there's a 10-unit building next door. Current building is one or two residential units and one small store. That's it. So this is not a radical departure from that, but of course, bigger, newer. So it would create more cars and it's going to theoretically that 82 for
The reason I said it's closer to get to that light, the more traffic there is, and I'm just,
I was in that driveway today and there was absolutely no way at 11:30 in the morning that you could make a left turn. But
So I don't know if I've ever made that turn as well.
Yeah.
And we do have to go through, and this is on a state road, so we do have that process, so maybe we can go to the NJDOT and see what.
Yeah. And my other concern on that issue would be that the residents who have lived there in the building next door, if we suddenly imposed a no left turn there, would be really an imposition on them. And it's possible that you can make the left turn if you're patient and you're, keep safety in mind, but it's a busy thoroughfare. No doubt about it.
It's on a site plan application for 86 North Compton, and it helped us with figuring out the common driveway. And for some reason, they came before this board in the 80s. That building was built in 63, but they did come through the board in the 80s for something. I don't think it wasn't clear. We only had the plan, which is great, showing the apartment, which is technically the way it is today. I don't recall seeing anything on here about restricted.
there's no connection to the church parking lot. They'll be closed, okay.
San, did you have any questions? Thank you. Any other questions? All right, if there's any members from the public who want to ask questions, I'm going to ask that you hold your questions until we hear testimony from the other professionals, and then we'll invite you up to ask any questions. It's a little more streamlined that way. Thank you.
Okay, thank
Thank you, Jack.
Okay, our next witness is Adam Lasota. I believe this is Adam's first time here in Little Falls. Adam and I have worked on several projects together in Montclair. I'm happy to have him here in my hometown. He does great work, as you've seen from the architectural plans. Adam, let's get you sworn in.
Hello, everyone.
You raise your right hand, will swear for the testimony that you're about to give before this board is going to be the truth, the whole truth.
Yes, I do.
Tell us you need to swear to us into the record.
Yes, it's Adam Lasota, Lasota.
Adam, tell the board about yourself, for education,
Yep.
professional experience.
So I went to school at NGIT. I got a BA degree and graduated in 2012. And then was licensed in New Jersey in 2018. Subsequently picked up 2 other licenses, one in Pennsylvania, one in Rhode Island, and they're all in good standing.
Okay, I offer Adam as an expert in the area of architecture.
Accept. Welcome.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right.
Okay, Adam, also about yourself and building you design.
So Chairman, thank you to the board. I'm a loudspeaker, so I'm just gonna go by the drawings and project a little bit. Is that okay?
It's fine.
Great.
So, one of the challenges of this site, and something that, because I'm also a resident of Philadelphia, I also grew up in the Township. So I have a bit of experience of, living in many different locations, both urban and also suburban. But one of the things that I think we have a great specialty with is the kind of narrow, long blocks that we used to see in very urban environments. So, especially with John said, we did a lot of work in Montclair together, and this type of typology of urban center that I'm always serving down for these long narrow lots are getting trickier and trickier to figure out how to put something that's there. So we came up with this great idea also to show something that is very beautiful, that has that 2-story line right at the front, the elevation, and also what Jeff was speaking earlier, that 11-foot front setback. It was also because of the reason we had to make sure that we meet the floodplain elevations. So the reason why we did that 11-foot setback, one was to align with the neighbor next door, but 2, to give us enough room to be able to do an ADA ramp up to the floor level of the building, and also squeeze a nice generous stair on the left hand side. So even though we had to raise the building, we still made sure to keep under the building at 35 feet. It is considered a 3-story building. I think we had a conversation as well about the fact that we did say.
I would like to spend a little time because it is confusing. Yeah,
Yes.
because, we think the mission was to keep this a 2.5-story building just to eliminate a variance. And in the most simple terms, you think just keep it 1/2 of the floor below. So if the floor below is 1,500 square feet, keep that quote unquote 3rd floor at 750, and there you are, it's 1/2 story. That's not technically correct, as the planner pointed out, and we all understood on the call. Why don't you explain that to the board?
I'll try to touch around there a little bit. So if it's easier to say, you can see that that 3rd story is set back, that's why it's a little associated with the lighter. We set it back far enough so that it's on the first page, it reads a 2-story building. But the definition of a 1/2 story is twofold. One, it does have to be 50% or less than the floor floor, which it does meet. But it does not meet the other criteria of the height along one of the edges where the roof line starts. It has to be a maximum of 3 feet from the floor level. So because the roof pitch starts a lot higher than 3 feet, we do not meet the criteria of a 1/2 story. Again, we agree with, and all the area under 6'6", any ceiling height that is 6'6" and above counts towards the square footage calculation to meet that 50% in order to be classified as a 1/2 story. So we meet it halfway, but we don't meet it on the height, right?
I would like to add to that for the board's understanding that it doesn't meet the letter of the law, but it meets the intent. Because the way they have done it, set it behind, substantially behind, that when you're on the street, you're not going to see a 3-story. The idea of having a 1/2 story is to not impose a tall building onto the street. And this meets that because it's substantially set back. So that's something I would really like to bring to the board's attention.
Thank you. But just to go back on record, we also want to show that we're trying to, as best as we can, incorporate that intent to bridge the reuse of the story building. That's why that 3rd story is set back as far as possible for us to make sure that the 50% requirement holds true. So, and one of the reasons that we want to also incorporate the bell tower to show that You can see how much that helps out, but it is tower over the architecture, especially at street level. And even though this reads as a two-story, even though we have that raised plinth because we need to meet the flood requirements. Even this elevation is still a lot lower than the two apartment buildings, you know, your mass perspective too.
Yeah, the one's an apartment building, the other one is.
Yeah. And you can see here on the side, like, make sure it's align that as best as possible. So again, we're trying to bring a lot of logic to these very challenging sites. And I think in this one, we really wanted to push down, but still be respectful, of course, of these are. So here on the ground floor, you can see it's just primarily all retail. But the main importance is that the stairwell and kind of the lobby access to the residential is out. We do acknowledge that we're often serving to a very busy street. And for the most part, the tenants that we're going to be leasing upstairs are going to be coming there. So let's get them in for our visitors not walking. Really walking down that shared driveway. You know, we do have a local walk down the side, but again, I think it's best that we give not only better access for the tenants, but also for their own safety. So they park in the back, get around it, and then go shared staircase that leads them talk to generous floor plan here. So we have 2 bedrooms with a center open living and dining area, generous eating kitchen with an eating area. And again, they call this hallway in that shared stairway hallway, they will let it says right at the top of the stairs. But then these are kind of walk style in terms of, you know, going with not only the architecture of the exterior, so John's going to do, it does bring that homage to the mills, this kind of old industrial look, old modern to us. So with that, each unit, they're just mirror images of each other. We connect that on third floor. And of course, a very generous roof, one looking toward the front and one looking toward the rear, because the name of the building there doesn't mean we can't utilize the fact of that setback in order to give us a nice kind of outdoor area as well. And especially more and more, especially as you all know, we were stuck indoors during COVID for well over a year. It's nice to be able to have some outdoor space. And I think apartments should have that same access and luxury that have a lot of single family as well. And the state's opportunity, we want to set it back in front to keep that 2-story read at the elevation level, and then staying at the rear. And that is also one of the reasons why the square footage of that third floor is 50% of the total. Then lastly, we'll just talk about the elevation again. The typical law style architecture of just modernize that any larger with bigger glass. So again, with that same part window plans that we created, it's a very nice brick that has a series of steps in order to fan out to relate essentially these kind of 3 big arches with brick piers. Again, it looks very kind of, it's a mix between old and new. And I think it's a style that agrees well, especially here. And again, the rear elevation is almost a mirror image of the front as well. So we're not just making the next front. If you want to make it cement building outside. Now, one of the other comments too, that we agreed with was that side elevations were a little bit too much swathers.
So this, I think we're gonna have to mark because you have made some changes to the plan. So why don't we mark this? One of the comments that the planner has was that the side elevations, she would like to see something that had a little bit more embellishment, a little more design, even though some of it is somewhat hidden, it is going to be seen. And this is just a proposal, we'll mark it as an exhibit. I think like we've done in the past with the Palazzone application, we've coordinated with the planner to come up with a plan. So we're not tied to this, it's a suggestion.
So one of the things we did take it hard and actually kind of wrap it up this week. We wanted to show you guys something that we are conscious of having a strong child.
And why don't we mark, and go back to the,
This is what was written.
oh, okay, fine.
Yeah.
So these 2 pages here, so these are zonings that revised, the last 2 pages, C07 and C0.
Okay, so why don't we mark that as A1? We'll do A1 and A2.
Okay, so
So just explain
So
A1.
the Z07 will be A1,
yes,
and the Z08 will be.
yes.
Thank you.
So what I need to do is some horizontal banding and some vertical repeat joints within the EVIS system. I'll just give it a pattern, but once we design that pattern, it's like, well, it wasn't enough. It was just store marks. Let's add some color to it. Let's kind of bring in this dark black element. And kind of carry that language across the side elevations as well, because it's more visual. So it is still all, stucco underneath this, but it is, painted in a series of dark gray colors to give it a pattern and a little bit more texture, so it's not just like slide, like you call it.
Mhm.
So here to the driveway elevation, so this, side is, south side of the building and north side is facing that apartment with the floor with a shared driveway. And one of the comments was just for the elevation facing actually the bell tower, but we're gonna make architectural language on one side, we have to carry that one to the other side, because it's a building, we're gonna have both sides, still get that one side, so that's, the revised C07. And then the next exhibit, the revision C08, we follow that same language. We took the window away. And we just carried on that language with a bunch of store lines, and we also carried a horizontal elements that we had proposed on the front and rear, just carried that to the sides. And then one of the other reasons too was that because this side is only 4 feet away from the property line, it triggers an issue from the building, because we're only limited to 50%, 15% max grading. You might see that note at the top right of that elevation drawing.
Mhm.
So we could propose another set of, storefront windows here similar to the other elevation, because we're limited by the building. Otherwise, it becomes a nightmare. So we put as many windows as we could, with keeping with the architecture and style of the building. We're giving the rooms that need a window, we put a window there. And we still carry that language of, storing and painting, to keep this into that pattern, similar to what we did on the buildings.
Correct, and there's some substantial landscaping on the Holy Angel side there, and the applicant has spoken with the church about maybe making some additional improvements to their landscaping as well. Okay, I'd like you to speak about, so we are in fact asking for the variance. It does not become a D variance for the height, because the height is not the issue, but it's the number of stories, so it is a C variance, and we do agree with your planner that, in fact, we do need to ask for that. Our planner is going to speak to the variances, and I'm just going to run through some of them. And many of them, most of them are pre-existing that we're improving, but we're just not able to improve them that much more to be compliant. Like, for instance, the minimum side yard, our existing is 1.55, and as Adam pointed out, we're at 4. So that's an improvement.
It's not a complete sidewalk where you feel like you have to smooth by the property line. It's a process.
We tried to keep pedestrian access around the whole site so that we have
And primarily access on that side, because the other side of the property, of course, on that there's a street with people coming in and out. We want that, we don't want people walking with the property, we want to get a side yard setback, it's a variance, we want to make sure it's wide enough for the side also. Right.
On the other side, on the driveway side, there has been, that is existing at 8.27. We're going to 8.66. But that's just marrying with the driveway on the other side where the common driveway will be. We talked about the number of stories. Nothing has changed. We are requesting the variance with respect to the coverage. We do not have a parking variance. We may actually have one extra. The applicant saw the comment about making one space EVSE ready and is willing to do that. Should the board see to approve this application? And we do have a variance that we're requesting for the parking stall size. As I mentioned earlier, it was designed for whatever reason at 9 by 20, and we would like to see 9 by 18. In addition to that, there's a note that your planner has made about signage. So I'd like you to speak about the signage. Normally, I'd like to just say we'll comply with the code with respect to signage, but we had an opportunity to have a call, and the architect really didn't like that. And I think the planner agreed with, because of the style of this building, that the board may want to hear about our reasons why we are going to seek the variance for the canopy and the sign. So let's speak about this.
One of the provisions of the zone requirements that they can't even have it set more than 2 feet from the side. I think that's a major disservice to this design, and also it's the challenge of the site. One of the main challenges of the site is the platform at the end of the part of the people going up that ramp and people going up that stairs need a proper covering for whatever starts. So one of the reasons why we designed the front canopy to be 4 feet out of the building in order to get a proper covering, and if you're ready and enforceable on that entire platform, floor, ramp, and stairs. If the ramp comes, slopes up and around it, finishes at, say, it comes up, and finishes at the right side, that you're looking at the building straight on, versus the stairs come off the far left side. So we really want to make sure that you want to be proper covering it for coming enforcement, right? You know, maybe not today, but this side of January, February, when it's snow, we want to make sure that it's proper covering for people going upstairs. And then we took that as an opportunity to then create a signage that attaches to the canopy as well. We also proposed a signage to the left, industrial style address plaque, and we also did propose a lake sign on the right hand side, which you can see on the side elevations. It's easier to see.
And while they're shown being backlit and illuminated, we will, we saw the comment on that, seeking the variance. We will not be seeking that variance. They will not be. If anything, there would just be a gooseneck light over it, shining on it, which is consistent with the township. So,
Yeah, the plaque here was someone maybe forced to get rid of that. The retail storage,
yeah, when we saw the comment about the canopy, I thought Mr. Lembo would be happy about losing it because it is a very expensive design element, but he really liked it as well. We hope the board likes it, but if you don't, then we're not tied to it.
Of course, it's beautiful too, but it is functional.
Yeah, and it does happen to echo the Mecca's buildings that are being built right now. There are two metal canopies to the entrance of both of these buildings.
I would just like to add for the board's benefit that my comments were more about the signage not meeting the technical aspect, like what constitutes a blade sign, how should signage be on an awning or canopy. But the aesthetic of this particular sign wasn't an issue, and especially after they've agreed to not have a self-illuminated signage. My opinion as a professional planner and architect is that this variance is more technical that they need to get from you. And also number of signs, I believe, which my review letter doesn't
Yeah, correct.
note, but as an afterthought, I realized that too.
So we would request that variance as well to allow for the main sign as well as signage on either side of the blade sign. In the circle sign, the one. Right.
Yeah.
And the size would conform. We're not seeking any variance with respect to size.
Side.
Correct. All right, Adam, I think we've covered all of the comments here. I have no further questions.
I'm not sure if this is for the architect or the engineer, but are all of the HVAC systems within the utility closets?
Yes.
Nothing outside on the roofs or?
If you're looking at that position, not stick above the parapet. So it would not be visible.
So it would be on the deck area, not on the upper roof?
No, what's the upper roof slope? The roof deck areas are going to be a flat roof system,
Mhm.
which is more conducive to installation.
Mhm.
Especially being positioned as close as we can to the walls, especially, being 2 stories out of a parapet wall, that sight line, you never see.
Any other questions, board members?
Yeah.
Regarding that, you have access to the.
Yes, there is, yes. From the shared, from the second living. There is a series of floors. We have these all storefront systems, so we still haven't exactly designed and figured out all the details yet, but it would be active.
With access that will be in requirements to where.
No, the parapet wall would meet the code requirements for the night. Where the organized program is getting water. That's all like it's that all the program being delivered.
Mhm.
The north and south exterior walls. Although that the center field of that wall is primary stucco. I do notice, at least in the rendering, that there are pillars of brick, not in that rendering, in the other. Yeah, in the north and south view. Are those pillars brick from ground floor to roof line? All right, I wasn't sure if the rendering was true to what was.
Yes, these gears, especially at the front and the rear, they do carry, and they do help to, provide a solid corner, for that third story. Yeah, that is, you are seeing that that same length of gears in the front, it does carry on the sides as well, both on the north side and also on the south side. Same way.
I'm just curious, how are you soundproofing this thing? Those bells go off twice a day. I wouldn't know.
Mr. Seaver, the applicant said the same thing, which was one of the reasons you wanted to limit the amount of windows. I believe that Holy Angels does, I think they do go off, they go off at midnight and start at 9. I don't think they go through the night.
No, they don't go through the night,
No.
but primarily during the day. If there's a funeral, or a wedding.
Also, we did keep that architecture as well. We did have to squeeze it better here. There's only one window from anything.
I'm just curious. It was more just,
And also on that third floor, there are going to be windows in bathrooms as well. Is that master bedroom? There's another wall that keeps this up.
Well,
That as well.
It's a very European feature.
It really is.
It sounds so pretty though.
Yeah.
Also your-
Yeah. Mr. Koblar's asked a good question about the downspout. How was that resolved?
We actually, the roof actually had a series of levers that we punched through and attached to whatever stormwater management system that we, of course, according to the system.
Internal piping inside the building, or is it exterior?
It would be, here's a, and was based on rainfall.
Mhm. Mhm.
But ideally like to run that against the on the side as well, not right in the middle of them, but like
Mhm.
in that corner is being where the transition from tiers and stuff. That's the idea.
Yeah. It's recessed a little. Yeah.
Yeah, so just something that.
Yeah.
It's also running.
Mhm.
Running water from a roof back inside, back outside, just disaster for leaks, so. But we would like to design a series of roof leaders and downspouts that are also black in color.
Mhm.
Right, so it stays in character because.
Mhm.
If my client puts in white PVC, I will go there and not.
Thank you, Mr. DeSoto.
Yeah.
We'd like to propose a series of black roof leaders and downspout that.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Criminal trespass comment, we are, no further questions.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, I just have.
Yes.
So, what's the distances in step back of the upper portion in front of the building, what's that distance?
That distance
Step back.
is.
Mhm. It's 14.
19 feet on all ends.
Oh.
It is on that image is shown on C01.
Mhm.
We also model all of our projects, this rendering is correct, 3D model, accurate representation of the performance. We're not trying to take it perspective.
Mhm. Oh, that driveway, is that an accurate descript or depiction? Because it seems that there's a curb jump there,
No, that's not.
right in front of the Tesla.
No, that's right.
Okay.
No, that's how it's going to be. I've asked
Is
them
it?
to widen the driveway to.
I thought so, yeah.
eliminate that
Yeah.
curve.
The driveway is,
The
I believe
driveway
the
is
curb
being
cut's
widened.
26 feet. I think the existing is 26. We can bring Mr. Agarian back up here.
Um,
No, there is maybe 26 feet, but a portion of that, 3 or 4 feet is in front of the concrete sidewalk on the parking lot.
yeah, there's
So
a
you're
step.
losing, space there, then you're widening out the driveway on applicant building side, so there is a 3 or 4 foot area as shown on that plan that if it's left that way, a car wouldn't be driving over that, so possibly making a right turn, leaving the side. One of my comments is to widen that driveway. That curb cut
Widen it on
in the road one.
in the road.
If we just curve it, so we don't go apply for a road opening permit?
I'm concerned a car exiting the driveway, especially at night, they don't see that, the full height curve.
But if we extend the 6-inch curve to kind of delineate where the curb cut is. And then, return it back into the building, rather than, I think going where a road opening permit from the state. Yeah. take it
Then
there.
you're effectively decreasing the effective width of the driveway.
Driveway, but it's still indicated 26.2 feet, so as long as we can clearly delineating 24-foot wide access area, and ensure that car goes right over that curve, I feel confident we can make that.
Yeah, but the 26 is shifted from the actual driveway location of the site. It's not the line. It's the driveway.
You're saying a portion of that 26.2 feet is measured from the walkway against the 10-unit residential.
40 feet.
Is that 4 feet? That there's something?
Yes. 4 feet, yeah. I don't want to do it.
We have gone for NJDOT, as Mr. Garion points out. Many times they just ignore you. So it's not it is not a fun process, so that and we are, we don't own that site. We can, we can make changes. There's a pre-existing condition for the 10-unit building, the orientation of that walkway. I don't want to interfere with their site plan.
Well, no, you wouldn't get back there, so why did it on your property?
Right.
Oh,
If you
you're
look at the
saying-
diagram, right in front of the Tesla, there is a full curb. Right there. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Mr. Darius suggesting essentially that then that area goes from 26 then to 22. If we put earlier,
This is part of the 26 feet already, so we just. Put a curve here, to stop people driving over that area.
Are you gonna put a curb cut back to the rear of the structure?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we wouldn't have to go all of that, we could, or we could also tie up, just return back into the building, the landscape that there or something.
can you put the like a flush mounted building in that area, that whole
Area
area?
would be in 60, or you don't want anything, you don't drive over.
Okay.
Right, you want to try to guide the car
Yeah,
away from that area.
I think maybe the answer is that we will use our best efforts to get I can't force the state. It is, it's a pre-existing curb cut essentially. We can't force the state, although we have seen it. I mean, we took advantage of when the state was here. Phil Simone and I went down for 178, 198, 30-38, and I give lots of credit to Mr. Simone for doing that. And he got there with them and had everything measured out. We don't have Phil any longer, and I'm not sure, we'll be able to get that attention. We can just say that it's a pre-existing condition. We'll use our best efforts to, to try to do. I recognize, I wasn't really focused in on that. I do recognize the comment.
Or if the state doesn't approve, or does not approve of the widening. you would
Put the,
add
then
curb
put the
to
curb
it.
just in that area so it
From the
transitions,
building to transition
Correct.
to the existing drop curb.
which is still a huge improvement from the no man's land that it is currently.
Right, I'm just trying to prevent.
Yeah, no, understood. Understood, and
Yeah.
we'll make our best efforts to do that.
So, and the only exterior lighting in the front of the building is the wall mounted fixtures on the facade?
Yeah, well, you mean for the front?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are poles in the back.
And what about on the driveway side?
I believe there's wall mounted lights.
Is there? They are, okay. Well, that might illuminate that area. I just don't like the idea of a car jumping the curb there, because almost all the cars make a right turn.
Yeah, I
Exiting
mean,
the
the
driveway.
real benefit of this application is now we're pushing it back almost 14 feet from where it's, we're -2 and then we have
Right.
11 something feet back. So currently you pull up and you have no choice but to basically go into Route 23 because you can't see.
Right.
You're -2 into the right of way at this point,
Agreed.
on the existing condition.
I did that today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Any other questions?
I have one question. I have one
Yes, please.
question. I just, sharing the drive aisle, but, will you be sharing the parking with?
No,
Jeez.
there will be no shared parking at all there'll be shared parking within the building, retail and the 2 residential units. But with the 10-unit building as part of our agreement with them, that we'll submit to the board once it's finalized and signed. No, there will be no shared parking between the 2.
Do you think you'll put in signage or you don't think it's necessary to put in signage or barriers or anything?
We will have we will have.
Signage.
Yeah, the law gives a prescriptive easement there anyway. It's been an existing condition for over 100 years. So there's a prescriptive easement. There's never been well, I shouldn't say this. There's a written easement that parties, not Mr. Lembo, parties before him put on the back of a napkin and almost marker crayon and signed it. So that's actually legally binding as well, but no, we've drafted a new easement and, we'll submit that once it's finalized.
Do you have another witness?
Yes, we have our professional plan here this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lasota. Okay, our next and final witness is John Takina, who's going to testify in the area of professional planning from the office of John McDonough.
Raise your right hand, you swear from the testimony that you're about to give before this board is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but
I do.
the truth. Please tell us your name and spell your last name for the record.
Hi, my name is John Tykina. It's T as in Thomas, A-I, K as in Kelly, I-N as in Nicholas, A. I'm a licensed planner in the state of New Jersey, have been since I completed my studies at Rutgers University in 1992. Had the pleasure of keeping my license in good standing for the last 32 years. Most of the time I do this, testify before boards throughout the state and throughout the country on behalf of applicants. This is my 163rd different board that I've appeared before in New Jersey. Never been here before.
How many were you have?
563. Not even halfway there, but I'm working on it. And it's nice to be here.
You're accepted and welcome.
Thank you. Your town is lovely. So I'm here to talk about the application from a planning standpoint. We do require a D1 use variance. There's certain standards and findings that the board is required to make. First and foremost, the site is particularly suited for the use. Then we need to talk about the special reasons, what purposes of zoning will the application advance. Next, we need to talk about the Medici criteria, i.e. why didn't the governing body zone it this way, even though it's been in your master plan as a recommendation for 11 years. And then finally, the negative criteria. Are we going to have a negative impact on the zone plan or the master plan, or are we going to have a substantial detriment to public good? We also need some C variances. The existing condition ones will be C1 variances for extraordinary conditions affecting a specific property, particularly the narrowness of the site and how that drives our need for our side yard setback variances. And then we also have the rest of the variances, if you will, for number of stories, for lot coverage, for parking setback, parking stall size, and for signage. All those will be C2 variances, where again, they'll advance the same purpose of the zoning as the D variance. And we will meet our negative criteria for those as well. So in terms of site suitability, the site is particularly suited for the use based on its context and condition. It's been a mixed-use building for well over 100 years with the shared driveway existing on Route 23 Newark Pompton Turnpike there. It is in a mixed-use, mixed and multiple-use area in your B1 zone. It's completely appropriate given the surrounding context that is there, and is a nice, will be a nice offset against the religious use immediately to our north. The site is, as I said, a mixed area with some residential and non-residential uses. And finally, condition-wise, the site is already developed with a mixed use, and in this instance, we're making a substantial visual improvement and visual and functional improvement. So again, the visual alone, actually on the Burbridge v. Mine Hill, just the fact that it's pretty is enough of a special reason to grant the relief that we're seeking. But in this instance, it's not just that it's pretty, it's also providing an actual functional enhancement to the site. We're having an improvement to the driveway, an improvement to the parking. We have a beautiful contextual building that's going to fit between our brick neighbors to the south and our church. So again, it's a true functional improvement, not just purely aesthetic one. In terms of our special reasons, I'd submit to you that there are three. G, to provide sufficient space and appropriate locations for a variety of uses in accordance with their environmental requirements. I, to promote a desirable visual environment through good civic design and arrangement. And I would submit to you, this is great, great civic design. I'll tell you. So when you start doing this work, and again, I kind of fill in for John and fill in for other planners on it. So the first thing I'll do is I'll pull up the site on Google Maps, and then you go to Google Street View. And I looked at Google Street View, and you've all been driving past it for 15 years. So you know what the building looks like now. And then I saw this, and I was stunned. I was absolutely stunned by how good it is. So again, I absolutely believe we're promoting a desirable visual environment. And then finally, M, to encourage coordination of the public and private procedures affecting land development with a view towards lessening the cost of that development and to the more efficient use of the land. And in this instance, we have a small, a narrow, deep site where we are providing for the mixed use solely on the B1 side of the ledger, if you will. So our building will be within our B1 zone. The parking will be what intrudes into the residential zone. That is entirely consistent with all the Supreme Court cases that deal with split lots, commercial and residential, et cetera, where the Supreme Court has literally said that in the AMG case, that providing parking in the adjacent residential is the most appropriate use for those quote unquote backlot areas. In terms of our positive public impact, the project will flow, function, and operate safely, comfortably, and efficiently. As our experts provided testimony, we recognize as we are coordinating these public and private procedures, we have DOT, we have DEP, we're going to have the county, we have soil erosion, and we have all of our municipal requirements. And applicants spend a lot of time doing that juggling. And the DEP just made it harder with the flood rules, et cetera. So you're seeing what's happening in your town as you are heavily impacted by these rules in a practical way, not in the theoretical way that DEP talks about it, where you need to literally talk about how does this affect every one of our sites in the downtown. And I think the architect did a really nice job of addressing the floodplain issue and having an elegant transition between the sidewalk level and a building level that's going to be above the floodplain in an appropriate way. In terms of our Medici criteria, I think that the town has shown frankly, and it actually says it in their master plan, that the use variance is going to be the application of choice for applicants going forward because of the tremendous variety of uses that exist within Little Falls and exist within your commercial districts. So I think that the variety of uses has led to a little bit of zoning stagnation that hasn't allowed for an appropriate mixed-use zoning ordinance to come forward. And that is kind of stymied, quote unquote, conforming development in that way. So I think that the use variance has been the path du jour, if you will, for applicants. And I think that at this point, it's 11 years in counting. So I think it's going to continue. In terms of the zone impact, we're not negatively impacting the B1 zone in any way. We're providing for commercial uses there with an attractive building and mixed uses that are in comportment with our surrounding uses. In terms of our residential to the rear, again, we're providing lowest impact, just the parking, and we're mitigating all of our impacts by using the site efficiently, continuing the existing shared driveway in an efficient way that's consistent with a downtown area such as Newark Compton Turnpike. The project will continue to promote your walkability and your lessons reliance on your automobile goals that are there. In terms of our C variance relief, again, the side yard setbacks are specifically related to the narrowness of the site to be able to provide for standard size improvements as provided for in Langby North Caldwell, where we have a building of a normal size. We have a parking space of a normal size. All of these things have to exist, even though it's on a site that's only 47 to 45 feet wide. So we're fortunate to have a shared driveway situation where we get a little bit of width. But again, that's why we need the side yard setback relief for the building, the setback relief for the parking. And again, under Langby North Caldwell, those improvements are entitled to be of normal size and shape for the utility. So you don't have to make something a funny shape just because your lot is a funny shape. That is the specific intent of the C1 variance. And then for the C2 variances, again, all the benefits that we talked about for the use carry forth. I think that all the C2 benefits of the step back to providing the third floor, again, a creative solution to providing for the residential uses, to trying to comply with your half-story regulations that have two different envelopes, two different straitjackets to put you in, if you will. So we've complied in terms of size, and I think the step back that we've done with the architecture has done a nice job, as the planner said, of meeting the intent of the ordinance, where it's not being overdeveloped, and it will read as a two-story building from the street. They'll function as a full 2.5-story building upstairs. And then finally, the signage. I think it is it's a unique design consideration that we have here, where we have a canopy that's not an awning, so it's a canopy, it's a different dimension, providing a functional aspect as well as an aesthetic aspect. And our signage is a little bit unique, given the unique architecture of this building. And I think that the benefits of that architecture far outweigh any detriments that relate to the relief that we're requesting. And finally, we'll have no detriment to the public good. This will be a substantial improvement to that part of Newark Compton Turnpike. And I'd expect that this is going to beget additional investment up and down that corridor as they see the quality of this investment. It tends to spill out across the neighborhood. Nobody wants to be the ugliest building on the block. So the ugliest building on the block is going away. It's being replaced by the prettiest building on the block, maybe the second prettiest. I'm partial to the church. I love the bells. I think we have an opportunity here to really do something special and have no detriment. I think that it will also be improving the condition coming out of the driveway with the additional setback going back to the 11 feet, providing for better sight distance in both directions. And I'm sure that the engineers will be able to work it out, whether it's with DOT or the curb, whatever the case may be. I think the presence of a ramp there is going to mitigate with that as well, to tie all that together in the appropriate way. So for the reasons that I cited, I believe the board has the ability to grant the relief requested, and I'm available for your questions.
I have no questions.
Questions from the board? Sam, any questions?
I have no questions.
Michael,
No,
counsel?
I'm sure I have no questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
You want to open up to the public?
Oh, yes,
if they have
thank
any
you.
Questions of witnesses?
Questions?
Sure.
Is there anyone from the public who would like to come up and ask a question or provide a comment? You're welcome to come up to the podium. Seeing none, we will close the public portion of the meeting.
Just a brief summation, and you've heard me say this before about Pompton and Route 23. It's just made vast improvement from the time that I was a kid, having grown up in this town when, Falls Plumbing was there and Entman's was there and the hardware company was there. I'm dating myself for sure, but even in more recent times, like we've seen vast improvement here, and we really haven't seen anything yet. We're still waiting for the Pappas application, for the Subway sandwich application, for 198 North Compton. It's really becoming a very, very elegant corridor, and something that I didn't expect. It's reading much more like a main street, or will, as opposed to, to Route 23 or Pompton Avenue. Unlike our neighbors in Cedar Grove, they've got 4 lanes whizzing by them, and they struggle with, and I have applications in that town, they struggle with the ability to keep it more of a downtown pedestrian feel. And I think we've knocked it out of the park. I do want to compliment, we've been complimenting the architect a lot, but I want to compliment this guy, who is the applicant. He has a pattern of building beautiful buildings. He's also the proprietor of Fredco Landscape. He understands streetscapes and design, and he's put a lot of his own personal touch on this plan, as he does with his other projects. I'm not going to go through all the variances again. We've taken the time, and we thank your great board professionals for taking the time to speak with us and go through to help make this a better application. We're making some vast improvements to that, not only, like the planner said, by taking down the ugliest building on the block, but putting something that functions well and creates the ability to have something really nice in that almost 2,000 square foot store. We've seen some very temporary stores. I'm not going to go through the litany of what businesses have tried to go in to that property, but we've seen their unprofessional signage. We've seen the type of tenants that type of building can attract, and it's vastly different from what will come to a building like this. So based upon the reasons set forth by the planner and the fact that we have satisfied the criteria that this is in keeping with the town's master plan, we've satisfied the criteria, both satisfying the criteria for the D, for the use variance for the residential on the upper floor, but also for the C2 variances that are requested. And we're here for any additional questions, and I hope the board sees fit to approve this application, and thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brigliadoro, do you have any summary that you might be able to provide us?
So the applicant is seeking preliminary and final site plan approval, as well as a B1 use variance in regard to the 2 residential apartments. And then C variances, which our board planner Stan has identified in her report on page 412. We've gone all through a number of times. There's 2 minimum side yard setbacks. 1.4.01 feet on one side, 8.66 feet on the other side. Number of stories where 2.5 stories are permitted, 3 stories are proposed. Maximum roof coverage where 60% maximum is allowed, 91.5% is proposed. Parking setback, is 5 foot requirement, 5 foot setback, they're less than 5 feet. Parking stall size, they're proposing 9 by 18. We have a requirement of 10 by 20 for the commercial space, although they have more than enough parking to meet the residential site improvement standards for the 2 residential apartments, as well as the number of parking spaces required for the commercial aspect of the building. And then the signage we talked about, they eliminated the one variance for signage for the internal illumination of the signs that they require variance in regard to the canopy sign with the extension of it. So I think that covers the variances. I don't know if Sandy.
And do they need a variance for the canopy, the 4 foot wide?
Number of signs, number of signs, for the type of canopy sign, and they eliminated the internal luminous, so, that's it.
I think for the
But
canopy
what about the
itself,
canopy being 4 feet wide?
Um, that's for the signage, so it gets covered under that.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's 24 inches. So, but there's no separate, it's only for the signage. There's no separate requirement for the canopy.
Okay.
Chairman, I want to make one stipulation possible. Usually with constructions like this, the sidewalks in front are shut down for a long period of time, and this one is really close to a very accessible church.
Yes.
Is there a way that we can mandate that that sidewalk stays open the entire time through construction unless you're working on the sidewalk?
That's a good point. The only thing is, there will be a construction meeting
Mhm.
with these professional staff, with the applicant, and with the police department, Kingsby Maria, and they'll work on that.
Okay. But so they will keep it open?
it's a good recommendation, and yeah,
Recommendation.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of these projects, they shut the sidewalk down for months, and
Right.
I can't imagine a church sidewalk being
yeah,
shut
no,
down.
good recommendation.
Mhm.
Follow-up question on that, it's more aesthetic, is the intent to keep the existing sidewalk and that paver strip along the entire frontage, as is, as in, how would we do it? What would we do, the pavers as well?
So rather,
We got you, but John.
yes, so, yeah, the papers are, probably 20 years old at this point, and,
Both sides.
yeah, so we would keep it, we'll work with you to keep it consistent, but it's the intent, it's this business, to put brand new sidewalks and papers, yes,
It's not.
yes, no, good point.
Very good. Are there any other questions from board members? If not, can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the requested variances as stated by Rich Brigador professional.
Is there a second?
Second,
Valerie, please call the roll.
Yes.
Ms. Daniela?
Yes.
Mr. Falco?
yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Mr. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Rena? And Vice Chairman Beck.
Yes,
Great, thanks, everybody, have a good evening.
congratulations.
Very nice application.
Yes. Do we have any old business before the board? Do we have any new business before the board? Hearing none. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.